What do you wish you knew before starting your podcast? It's a question that I hear very often and something I see a lot online in different Facebook groups and different communities. And I thought it would be fun to dive into this today in a really different and fun way. Let's get into it. Hello, hello. Welcome back to As It Relates to Podcasting. My name is Simona Costantini, and I'm the founder of Volt Productions, which is a full-service podcast production agency for entrepreneurs and small businesses looking to launch, grow, and monetize their show. Today's episode is a little bit different. I'm going to be looking down at my screen a lot because I'm going to be sharing with you some different thoughts, different perspectives on what do you wish you knew before starting your podcast. This is a question that I hear all of the time. Simona, what would you do differently if you started Happiness Happens Again? Or what's one thing that you would focus on now that you were so worried about then that didn't actually matter? I have learned so much since starting my podcast in 2018. And there are so many things that if I were to go back and relaunch the show, I probably would do a little bit differently. But in all truth and all fairness, I probably wouldn't change a whole lot of that journey because that journey, if I changed it, it wouldn't bring me to where I am today in doing this and being here with you. So what I thought we would do today is go into a Reddit thread that I was reading and some of the answers to this main question that someone posted. Sometimes I'll go into Reddit and I'll just see what people are saying about the podcasting industry, what kind of questions that they're asking. I'll weigh in here and there. But this one question that someone asked was, what do you wish you knew before starting your podcast? So this was the actual post. It says, "Hey everyone, I'm hosting my first podcast soon, and I would love some advice. I'd rather make my own mistakes than repeating others, even though I'm sure I will anyway. What errors did you make early on that you'd avoid now? And where would you focus your energy if you were just starting out?" So I pulled out my favorite answers. I'm going to leave it all anonymous because I don't know how someone would receive that if I took their answer and blasted it. I don't really know. But the first one that someone shared was, if you mess up while you're recording, just pause, then restart the sentence completely. It will make editing so much easier down the line. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to read each comment and I'm going to give you my thoughts on top of that. I love this piece of advice. And this is something that it took me a little bit to learn, and you learn it very quickly when you're editing your own content, that it's easier to piece two brand new thoughts together than to try and piece a sentence together. So if I make a mistake, or if my words, not even a mistake, if I'm stumbling over my words in a sentence, pick the sentence back up from the beginning, because then that'll make your editing so much smoother in the long run. So I absolutely love this, because what I see a lot is people will continue on in their sentence and then the words are all mashed up together and you're like, wait, what did that person just say? It's not clear, right? And it's confusing for people because they don't get the full sentence and everything that you meant to say. So if you mess up during your recording, it's okay. You don't have to stop your recording. You don't have to restart. You don't have to hit pause. I mean, you can hit pause and you can walk away like I did earlier today, because as soon as I sat down to hit record and to record an episode for you, they came and they started cutting the grass. I live in a condo corp or whatever, and they come and cut the grass. And of course they came to cut the grass as soon as I sat down to hit record. So classic, right? If you need to take a pause and walk around because it's less frustrating to do that, then fine. But you don't need to hit pause in your recording. It's better to just let the track roll the whole way through, and then you pick back up when you're ready. So that is my thought on that. The second thing someone said is, do it for yourself. If you watch numbers, you'll lose motivation and let it die. But if you make the podcast for your own fun, you'll enjoy the process most of the time and produce a good podcast. And I could not agree with this more. The biggest mistake that I see is people getting so hung up on the downloads, especially in today's day and age. The downloads is a metric, and you want to pay attention to metrics because data can give you a lot of clues and a lot of insights. But data doesn't necessarily mean that you are a better podcaster versus somebody else. They could be starting from a massive audience that you don't necessarily have, right? So a lot of the times people will look at the numbers to gauge their success, but if you don't have a big community and you're launching a brand new show for the very first time, you will likely look at those numbers and start to lose motivation, and it becomes less inspiring or less fun to show up every single week. If you're creating a podcast episode based off of something you love to talk about and something that is an extension of you, it's going to feel so much easier to show up week over week. And your downloads, yes, they're still going to matter, but they don't matter in the same way. They don't have as much weight to them because at the end of the day, you know that your message is impacting whoever it is meant to impact, and it's going to land exactly where it's meant to land. So then if you pair that with different marketing strategies, which we've covered plenty of on this podcast, you can go back to past episodes, then you have a more powerful way to get your content in front of people. So that is a really, really good one there. The third one is have a future plan. So this person says it's best to have an idea of what is best to say to sponsors if they approach you or want to place their product. I like this advice, and what I'm gathering from it is have a plan outside of, okay, I'm going to put these episodes out there and this is my podcast. How do you want it to grow? How do you want to respond to sponsors if they come to you? What does pricing look like if that happens? What is your future plan of the show? How are you going to continue to grow it? And where do you want to see it? What are the goals for the show? That's kind of what I gather from this one here, which I think is a great idea. And it goes right into the next one, which is number 4, have an end goal. It's okay to start, but know where you are going. Are you going to have seasons so that you can work in your break? Or are you just going to release a weekly podcast until the mental breakdown hits? Oh my God, truer words have never been said. No, I'm just kidding. I hope that you never get to that point, mental breakdown. Oh my God, it's so funny. Please don't let yourself get to that point. The episode that I just released right before this talks about taking an intentional pause. So if that's you, please go ahead and do that. But having an end goal is really important. So knowing where you want to go and how you want the show to grow will help guide you into that direction. And it doesn't mean that you have to land exactly there, but having a target and having an idea of where you want to go is totally super fun. And I love that because where intention goes, energy flows. So if you know where you're going, your energy will flow in that direction. And also, I like this piece about the seasons, having seasons so that you can work in your break if you have one. Seasons are really, really cool, especially if you're very busy and especially if you have content that you can batch together. Tailoring that and putting it into seasons can actually give you better results if you're looking for growth because you can fixate and niche down into one specific topic, which I absolutely love. So seasons is really, really cool. We actually just did this for a client who was a biweekly podcaster, and some months she would release only one episode a month because the mental load of creating these episodes, because they're a bit more technical and like more information needs to be researched behind them. So we turned the episodes into seasons. And we do shorter episodes laid out in seasons so that people can go and get their content and listen to it in bite-sized content, and it's easier to digest. So seasons can be really, really powerful if you do it with intention. And if you have questions about seasons, you can always reach out to me. I'm happy to chat with you and work through that. Number 5 is focus on consistency. Make the most important thing to film an episode every single week. The results will come with time. Now, I agree fully with consistency. Consistency and showing up and sharing your message and being in front of your audience consistently is really important. There's a lot of content out there nowadays. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of people creating a lot of things. The more consistent you can be, the more likely you are to get in front of your audience and in front of the people who need to hear your message. So if you prioritize recording your podcast episode, whether it's a solo episode or a guest episode, you will see how consistency will bring you results. Now, it's not just consistency in recording, in my opinion. It's also consistency in marketing efforts, consistency in messaging, consistency in showing up. So how you show up for recording your show, make sure that you're also showing up for the marketing of your show in the same way as well. The next one is number 6, and it's getting nervous happens to us all. My workaround was to stick a ridiculous, I love this so much, was to stick a ridiculous Lego person, Batman dressed as a mermaid, just above the camera. And if I get a little anxious, I just talk to Batman instead. I love this advice. I think that this is so fun. One of the things that I hear often from clients is how awkward it feels talking to the camera. And it's always been so challenging for me to be able to explain, like, don't look at it as a camera, just look at it as a friend. But if you have something else to fixate on, near or around your camera, it can make it feel so much more fun because it feels like you're talking to someone. So I love this. And I love that this person used like a little Batman Lego. That is so fun. Also, by the way, if you're listening to these and this is any of the advice that you've ever given, please send me a message so that I can know who wrote it, because this advice is so, so good. The next one is number 7, talk with your hands. This will charge your voice with extra emotion and really help with your delivery, even if you think you look ridiculous. You'll hear the change in the editing, I promise. I talk with my hands all the time. And Emily on my team, who edits my podcast for me, is always like, you literally are waving your hands in the air like you just don't care. So, which I don't care, but I do care because I want the final product to look good. But having that said, when I talk with my hands, I totally relate to this. When I talk with my hands, I feel like my energy is different, and it feels like, I'm Italian. Like I talk with my hands. That's what we do. And so I totally agree with this. I would also just be mindful of like how many hand movements that you're making. And also another tip that could be really cool here and really helpful is standing while you're recording your podcast. So I have a client who stands while she's recording her show, and it gives her a different type of energy, different tonality in her voice. And just overall, she's just way more comfortable when she's doing it that way. So I love that. Number 8 is work out how you're going to finish the interview beforehand and don't just let it trail off. Be clear on the next steps, episode release date, any additional information required, and most importantly of all, check in with your guest about how they feel it went. I love this advice because one of the most awkward things is ending a podcast interview and you don't know how to end it. So on my Happiness Happens podcast, I actually have an anchoring question that I end every single episode with. And it is, what is one way that you can create a little more happiness in your day, every day, starting today? Okay. I ask this question every single episode because to me, that is my anchoring thought. And that is how I'm going to end the episode. So if you struggle with ending your podcast episode, then maybe you have an anchoring question or something that happens at the end so that you can know how you're going to wrap up and it's not going to go on and on and on. The other thing too is don't be afraid to say to your guests something like, as we end this episode, or as we wind down, or as it comes to an end, or like whatever that wording is, don't be afraid to say that because it's okay. It's like a cue for them to know that we're winding down and it's coming to an end. And I totally agree with all of this, being clear on your next steps, checking in with them how it went. You can also ask that at the end of every single episode, not in like a people pleaser type of way, not in like a, oh no, I think I did a bad job. But one thing that I hear often on my Happiness Happens podcast is how much fun people have. And I love that, right? You want people to leave your show feeling really good, leaving the call or the interview or whatever feeling really good as they go about the rest of their day. So checking in with them can go a really, really long way. And this is the last one here, and this one is a little bit longer, so we're going to go piece by piece. So it says, it's not the tech. So buy a decent mic and move on. You don't monetize a podcast, you monetize an audience. Step 1, grow an audience. If you build it, they will come. Building it is the easy part. Getting people to listen takes time, around 3 years to build an audience. Now, I don't think that it takes 3 years to build an audience because I think there's a lot of other things you can do to build your audience in the meantime. I've talked a lot about them on past podcast episodes and even on my blog on my website. But what I do like that this person says is identify your why. If you don't get your why, you burn out, which I fully agree with. Identify your who. If you don't give them value, you'll never grow an audience. I agree with. Identify the what. This is content that both entertains the who while moving them towards your what. Identify how you will measure success. There are more than downloads. So there's sales, reach, influence, fun, and more. If you use the wrong metric, you might get discouraged. And this is really important to highlight because there is so much more than just downloads on your podcast. There's absolutely fun. There's connection. There's community. There's different opportunities that you don't even know are coming your way. So leverage your podcast to meet new people, get excited about it, and share about it. I love this so much. And it's totally right. If you use the wrong metric, you might get discouraged. Again, it's not all about the downloads. So just mindset check there. And this last piece here is, if the goal is to make money quickly and you have started with zero audience, know that it can take years to build an audience big enough to make countable income. I agree with that. When people come to me and they say they want to make money off their podcast, I'm a little hesitant at first because I'm like, yes, it can absolutely happen, but also you need to earn the space that we take as podcasters in people's days, headphones, lives, right? So you can't just assume that you'll create a podcast episode, everyone is going to love it, and you're going to have this massive community. No, you need to earn the space and the person listening to your show. And so if you want to make money off of your podcast, it's doable, it's possible. You can do that in a strategic way and you can strategize that. But podcasting is never a get rich quick scheme ever. I don't think it ever will be, but I think there are ways to bring monetization into your strategy, which you can absolutely do. But I agree that if your goal is to make money quickly and you don't have a big audience, it's going to be very, very challenging. These are the different points that I pulled from Reddit. I think I might do this once a month. This was so much fun. I love this. Let me know if you love this and if you want to hear more. Also, let me know if there's any spicy or juicy podcasting threads that you've come across that we can bring onto the podcast and we can read. I'm so grateful for you being here today. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And also, if you want to chat about any thoughts that you have when it comes to your own show, please reach out. The links are in the episode notes below. And I look forward to seeing you on next week's episode. Bye.